Today, we will explore a case that once shocked both China and Singapore, leaving countless people stunned and heartbroken. An adorable 8-year-old girl mysteriously disappeared in Singapore. Immediately after the incident, thousands of volunteers joined a massive search effort, but no trace of her could be found. When the truth was finally revealed, countless people condemned the cruelty of the perpetrator. Thousands of citizens voluntarily attended the girl's funeral, bringing along the candies she had loved most during her lifetime. However, as the investigation progressed, tens of thousands of people began to support the perpetrator instead. So what exactly happened? What was the truth? Let us travel back to 2004 and carefully examine the details of this case step by step. Singapore was once known as one of the 4 Asian tigers and is widely regarded as one of the safest countries in the world. In 2018, Singapore ranked first in Gallup's Global Law and Order report. In such an environment, Singaporeans generally enjoyed a strong sense of security and happiness. Combined with its flat coastal geography, activities such as beach walks and hiking became popular forms of recreation. Among the most famous destinations were Bukit Timah and Mount Faber, 2 of Singapore's highest hills. Standing at 164 meters and 106 meters respectively, they attracted countless hikers every year. Mount Faber Park, located beside Mount Faber, features peaceful trails that feel like a journey through a beautiful forest. However, hidden behind this picturesque scenery was the heartbreaking truth of the case we are discussing today. The central figure in this story was a well-behaved 8-year-old girl named Huang Na. She was born on September 26, 1996, into a farming family in Fujian Province, China. Her childhood was far from easy. Before she was born, her father had already moved to Singapore for work and had become involved with another woman. Eventually, her parents divorced, and she was raised by her mother, Huang Xiuying. Not long afterward, her mother remarried. Huang Na gained a stepfather, and her mother was also expecting a younger daughter from her second marriage. At the beginning of the 21st century, Singapore relaxed its immigration policies to attract talent, leading to a significant influx of foreign residents. In May 2003, Huang Xiuying heard about Singapore's excellent education system. Despite her modest financial situation, she did everything she could to bring her daughter to Singapore. At the time, Huang Na was just over 7 years old. Her mother enrolled her in Zhengda Primary School, which was considered relatively expensive. Huang Xiuying became what many called a study mother, accompanying her child abroad for education. To support their living expenses, she found work managing a vegetable stall at the nearby Pasar Panjang Wholesale Center. The mother and daughter rented a small room above the stall. While Huang Xiuying worked at the market, Huang Na often spent her time playing or sleeping on a small makeshift bed set up inside the wholesale center. The wholesale market was always crowded with people coming and going. Every day, Huang Na met countless different faces. Her cheerful personality and sweet smile left a deep impression on everyone she encountered. Almost everyone adored her. Despite her difficult circumstances, Huang Na never complained. On the contrary, she remained lively and optimistic. Seeing how hard her mother worked to support the family, she often said that she wanted to become a doctor when she grew up so she could earn a lot of money and give her mother a better life. Time passed quickly, and on September 27, 2004, shortly after Huang Na celebrated her 8th birthday, her mother, Huang Xiuying, packed her luggage and prepared to return to China for 2 weeks. Huang Na knew that her mother was going back to take care of her younger half-sister. Since she still had school to attend, she could not accompany her mother home. However, she was not too concerned, knowing that her mother would return soon. In fact, Huang Na had long been accustomed to her mother's frequent trips between Fujian and Singapore. She was used to eating meals on her own, going to school independently, and even bathing by herself at a public bathhouse. At the age of 3, she had already spent a summer vacation in her hometown without her mother. She had even traveled by airplane between Singapore and Fujian on her own. Although she was only a second-grade student, her independence and maturity were widely recognized by those around her. Therefore, Her mother's trip back to China did not seem like a significant event to her. Before leaving, Huang Xiuying left behind 100 Singapore dollars and asked her roommate, Li Shuqin, to look after Huang Na. 2 weeks passed quickly. Then came October 10th, a Sunday. At around 1:30 p.m., Huang Na told Li Shuqin, who was taking care of her, that she wanted to call her mother. Since Huang Na had always been very independent, Li Shuqin felt comfortable allowing her to walk alone to a nearby public telephone booth. Huang Na skillfully dialed her mother's number. Mom, when are you coming back? I need an English electronic dictionary and a new pair of shoes. On the other end of the line, Huang Xiuying explained that she still had matters to take care of at home. She reminded Huang Na to take good care of herself and promised to buy those things when she returned. The conversation lasted 6 minutes. Reluctantly, Huang Na hung up the phone. What Huang Xiuying could never have imagined was that this would be the last time she would ever hear her daughter's voice. Dui de la ban dike tiang on theo fong catch kuchuyen tai lu/fong su. By 2:30 p.m., Huang Na still had not returned home. Li Shuqin, who was looking after her, began to wonder, it's just a phone call. Why is it taking so long? Growing increasingly worried, she hurried to the nearby telephone booth but found no sign of the girl. She then searched the wholesale market and the school, yet Huang Na was nowhere to be found. A sense of unease began to grow in her heart. She quickly asked others to help search the area. The search continued until 10 p.m., but there was still no trace of Huang Na. Finally, at 10:20 p.m., they reported the disappearance to the police. At the same time, Huang Xiuying received the devastating news that her daughter was missing. She immediately abandoned everything she was doing and flew back to Singapore. Upon receiving the report, the police launched an investigation without delay. According to witness descriptions, Huang Na was wearing a blue denim jacket and shorts when she disappeared. She had neatly cut short hair. Vendors at the wholesale market all described Huang Xiuying and her daughter as kind and friendly people who had never had serious conflicts with anyone, making revenge an unlikely motive. Furthermore, Huang Na was highly independent and very familiar with the surrounding area, so the possibility of her getting lost was extremely low. As a result, investigators believed it was highly likely that she had encountered someone with malicious intentions. The police focused their investigation on the wholesale market and began conducting extensive searches. It did not take long before a potential lead emerged. A waitress named Ling, who worked at a coffee shop near the market's food court, reported seeing Huang Na walking alone on the afternoon she disappeared. The girl was barefoot, wearing a blue denim jacket and shorts. Curious, Ling asked her why she was not wearing shoes. Huang Na simply smiled politely and ran off. Soon afterward, several other people at the market reported seeing Huang Na that same afternoon. However, they claimed she appeared to be with a man. Coincidentally, many of them knew who he was. He was a packing worker in his 20s who was considered somewhat slow-witted and was often seen playing with Huang Na. The police immediately located the man. His name was Zhuo Yanghao, commonly known as Ah Hao. When informed that Huang Na was missing, he appeared shocked and unable to believe it. He admitted seeing Huang Na on October 10th and said that he had given her 2 mangoes before telling her to go home and not wander around outside. Judging by his honest and simple demeanor, the police initially saw no obvious signs that he was lying. After questioning him, they allowed him to leave. 2 days after the disappearance, Huang Xiuying returned to Singapore. While the police continued their investigation, she printed large numbers of missing person flyers and posted them throughout the city. She stopped anyone she met, asking whether they had seen her daughter. Believing that Huang Na might have been abducted or confined somewhere, she tirelessly searched from dawn until late at night. Construction sites, drainage systems, remote corners of the city, no place was overlooked. During this period, Huang Xiuying's niece had a dream in which Huang Na was trapped on a mountain. Desperate for any clue, Huang Xiuying searched both Bukit Timah and Mount Faber. Reporters soon arrived to interview her. In her hands were her daughter's favorite toy and a photograph of Huang Na. Her face revealed exhaustion, helplessness, and grief. After the report aired, countless people were touched by the story of the cheerful little girl and moved by the determination of her young mother. Many volunteered to join the search effort. It seemed as though the entire nation of Singapore had united in the search for Huang Na. Business owners, retired entrepreneurs, taxi drivers, and ordinary citizens all wanted to contribute. A 60-year-old retired businessman offered a reward of 10,000 Singapore dollars for useful information. Shortly afterward, a 48-year-old man named Lu Tianshan added another 5,000 Singapore dollars. Large numbers of volunteers gathered near the area where Huang Na had disappeared and organized search teams. Some company owners instructed their employees to distribute flyers throughout the city. The manager of a design company even created a dedicated website to collect and share information related to the case. ComfortDelGro, Singapore's largest taxi company, mobilized its drivers to assist in the search. The case even spread across the border into neighboring Malaysia. Taxi drivers there also joined the effort, while shops in Johor displayed missing person posters featuring Huang Na. Yet despite the unprecedented scale of the search and the distribution of more than 70,000 flyers within only a few days, Huang Na seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth without leaving a single meaningful clue behind. As the search intensified, a strange development occurred. Zhuo Lianghao, the man who often played with Huang Na, suddenly became a person of interest once again. When the police reviewed the victim's connections, they summoned him back to the station for another interview. This time, he unexpectedly changed his story. He claimed that he knew where Huang Na was. According to Zhuo, Huang Na had been kidnapped by 3 or 4 men. He alleged that Huang Xiuying had conflicts with several vendors at the market and that the kidnapping was an act of revenge. He further claimed that he could contact the kidnappers and persuade them to release Huang Na. However, he said that the 2 mobile phones he used to communicate with them were not with him and that he needed to retrieve them from home. Under the supervision of 2 police officers, Zhuo successfully collected the phones from both his residence and workplace. He was then escorted back to the police station to undergo a polygraph examination. On the way, however, Zhuo suddenly complained that he was hungry. Since he had been cooperating with investigators up to that point, the officers had little reason to suspect him. They agreed to let him stop at a roadside restaurant for a meal. While eating, Zhuo asked to use the restroom. Trusting the seemingly honest man, one of the officers allowed him to go alone. Moments later, Zhuo Lianghao had vanished. This action was practically a confession in itself. By fleeing from the police, Zhuo Lianghao had only made himself appear more suspicious. Investigators immediately launched a pursuit, but despite their efforts, he managed to escape. With no other option available, the police issued a warrant for his arrest. Yet Zhuo Lianghao seemed to vanish into thin air. No one knew where he had gone. Since locating him proved difficult, investigators turned their attention to examining his background in greater detail. Zhuo Lianghao was born on December 16, 1981, in Penang, Malaysia. He was the second of 4 children in his family. At the age of 18, he moved to Singapore alone, hoping to build a successful future for himself. However, reality was far harsher than his dreams. In the end, he was only able to secure a job as a packing worker at a distribution center. Later, he married an Indonesian Chinese woman, and together they had a son. When Huang Xiuying first arrived in Singapore, Zhuo had lived under the same roof as the mother and daughter because they were colleagues. During that period, he became quite close to Huang Na. The little girl often called him uncle, and he would occasionally take her for rides on his motorcycle or buy snacks and treats for her. Huang Xiuying trusted Zhuo Lianghao deeply. Therefore, when the police identified him as a suspect, she was shocked and refused to believe it. But the question remained, was Zhuo Lianghao really responsible? Malaysian police contacted Zhuo's family for information. His 52-year-old father, who operated a food stall at a coffee shop, said that his son had called home and insisted that he had not kidnapped the girl. According to him, Zhuo claimed he fled only because he felt pressured by the police investigation. Zhuo's older brother also defended him, saying that his brother was normally too timid even to borrow money or get into fights. The idea of kidnapping a child seemed impossible to him. Zhuo's wife gave a similar account. She said her husband had called her and repeatedly denied kidnapping Huang Na. He told her that he was hiding somewhere and did not know what to do. His family urged him to surrender and explain everything to the authorities. Then, on October 30th, after 10 days on the run, Zhuo Yanghao unexpectedly turned himself in at Penang, Malaysia. As soon as Singaporean authorities received the news, they quickly arranged for his return to Singapore. During questioning, Zhuo explained that after escaping from the restaurant through a back exit, he had headed directly toward the Woodlands checkpoint, the main crossing between Singapore and Malaysia. Although he did not have his passport with him, he was still carrying police-issued documents connected to the investigation, which allowed him to make his way back into Malaysia. Terrified, he avoided returning home and instead hid elsewhere. With the help of friends, he contacted Malaysian media outlets. During interviews, he repeatedly expressed sympathy for Huang Xiuying and said, "I want to tell her that I care deeply about little Huang Na. I am a father myself. Please do not spread rumors. The truth will eventually come to light." Eventually, after being persuaded by his father, Zhuo Yanghao decided to surrender. Then he made a shocking confession. He admitted that he was responsible. At 10 a.m. on October 31st, Zhuo led a team of 20 investigators to Mount Faber Park. The location was not far from the wholesale market, only a little more than 10 minutes away by car. Pointing toward a slope covered with vegetation, Zhuo said quietly, "She is here." After about 30 minutes of searching, investigators detected a foul odor coming from a patch of withered bushes. At the same time, they discovered a cardboard box sealed with adhesive tape. The box was not large. It was the same type commonly used for transporting goods at the wholesale market, measuring approximately 50 centimeters long, 40 centimeters wide, and 30 centimeters high. The exterior showed signs of damage. Through a small opening, officers could see plastic bags inside. The box was immediately transported to a forensic laboratory. Inside, investigators found a body wrapped in 9 layers of plastic bags. When the bags were carefully opened, they revealed the heavily decomposed remains of a young girl. Although the face could no longer be recognized, Huang Xiuying identified her daughter through her black hair and slightly protruding teeth. DNA testing later confirmed the heartbreaking truth. The body belonged to Huang Na, who had been missing for 3 weeks. The autopsy report concluded that the cause of death was acute suffocation, most likely resulting from an object or hand covering the victim's mouth and nose. 5 injuries were found around the mouth area, consistent with forceful restraint. Additional bruises were discovered on the right temple, scalp, chin, and lips. Investigators also found traces of mango in her stomach. The discovery raised an agonizing question. Why would Zhuo Yanghao commit such a cruel act against an innocent and beloved 8-year-old girl? The prosecution formally charged Zhuo Yanghao with murder. Before examining the court proceedings, let us first look at the suspect's own account of what happened. According to Zhuo, the incident was nothing more than a tragic accident. He claimed that after Huang Na finished her phone call, he brought several mangoes and invited her to a storage room inside the distribution center to play games such as hide-and-seek and a game involving tying up a person's hands and feet. To make the game more challenging, he said he tied Huang Na's hands and feet and then turned off the lights, leaving her alone in the dark so that she could try to free herself. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise coming from inside the room. When he quickly switched the lights back on, he claimed that he found Huang Na lying motionless on the floor, bleeding and convulsing. He assumed that she had accidentally struck her head against a nearby box. At that moment, Zhuo recalled a scene from a movie in which a person could be knocked unconscious and later revived by striking the back of the neck. Believing this to be true, he said he hit Huang Na on the back of the neck 3 times with the back of his hand. When she still did not wake up, he kicked her several times. Realizing that she might not survive, he claimed that he panicked. According to his statement, he tore some of her clothing and staged the scene to make it appear as though a sexual assault had occurred. His reasoning, he said, was simple: no one would suspect him because he had always been regarded as a law-abiding and harmless person with no criminal record. Police later located the storage room Zhua had described. The room was situated on the 15th floor of the wholesale market complex. Roughly the size of 3 apartments combined, it was typically used to store vegetables and dried goods. The curtains remained permanently closed, and few people paid attention to the room. A forensic search uncovered numerous pieces of evidence. Investigators found Huang Na's hair and blood, a cigarette but containing Zhuo Yanghao's saliva, adhesive tape bearing his fingerprints, and numerous fabric fibers from the clothing of both individuals. The evidence strongly suggested that this room was the primary crime scene. The trial began on January 11, 2005, at the Supreme Court of Singapore. The prosecution had prepared extensively. They assembled 76 witnesses and a large collection of physical evidence. They also presented a 5-minute video in which Zhuo Yanghao reenacted the alleged crime using a mannequin. Based on the evidence gathered after his arrest, prosecutors rejected Zhuo's version of events and presented a very different reconstruction of the crime. According to the prosecution, at approximately 1:40 p.m. on the day of Huang Na's disappearance, Zhuo lured the girl to the storage room. There, he restrained her hands and feet before committing a sexual assault. The prosecution argued that Zhuo then covered Huang Na's mouth and nose with his hand until she lost consciousness from suffocation. To ensure that she would never wake up, he allegedly kicked her repeatedly. Afterward, prosecutors claimed that he placed her body inside a sack, wrapped it in 9 layers of plastic, and packed it into a cardboard box barely half her size. He then sealed the box with adhesive tape. Because it was still daylight, prosecutors argued that Zhuo deliberately waited until around 5:30 p.m. before borrowing a colleague's motorcycle and returning home, where he spent several hours watching television to create an appearance of normality. At approximately 8 p.m., he allegedly returned to the storage room, secured the cardboard box to the back of the motorcycle, and rode directly to Mount Faber Park. There, he threw the box down a slope. Around 9 p.m., he returned the motorcycle. At first glance, the case appeared straightforward. The suspect had been identified, evidence had been collected, and a confession had been obtained. Many expected the trial to be brief. Instead, it became one of the most complex and controversial criminal cases in Singapore's recent history. One major reason was the strength of the defense team. Zhuo Yanghao was represented by the well-known Singapore lawyer M. Ravi Anand. Born in India, Anand had witnessed numerous tragic cases throughout his life. After moving to Singapore as a student and later becoming a Singaporean citizen, he built a reputation as a lawyer willing to take on difficult and seemingly hopeless cases. He was particularly committed to challenging what he viewed as weaknesses in the legal system. The Huang Na case would become one of the most significant cases of his career. Anand focused on a central argument. While Zhuo Yanghao was undoubtedly connected to Huang Na's death, the autopsy report, according to the defense, could not conclusively prove that he had directly caused her death. The defense pointed to several forensic findings. Huang Na's tongue showed signs of bruising, and urine stains were found at the scene. These findings, they argued, suggested that she may have experienced vomiting, involuntary urination, or even a medical episode such as a seizure before her death. The defense maintained that alternative explanations for the cause of death could not be completely ruled out. Furthermore, because the body had undergone severe decomposition, forensic experts were unable to determine whether Zhuo's DNA was present in a manner that could conclusively establish sexual assault. As a result, the defense argued that the prosecution could not prove beyond doubt that Zhuo had committed the alleged sexual offense. The defense also emphasized another key point: motive. According to the defense, Zhuo had no apparent reason to kill Huang Na. The two had known each other for years and had often spent time together. Witnesses described them as being on friendly terms. In addition to Anand, the defense called psychiatrist Dr. Samuel Lennon as an expert witness. The psychiatrist testified that Zhuo exhibited signs of severe mental disturbance at the time of the offense. According to his assessment, Zhuo showed little emotional response, remorse, or grief regarding Huang Na's death. Dr. Lennon argued that these characteristics were consistent with schizophrenia and suggested that Zhuo might not have been fully responsible for his actions at the time of the incident. He testified that Zhuo displayed three classic symptoms associated with schizophrenia: severe disturbances in thought processes, emotional blunting, and delusional thinking. For example, the defense argued that Zhuo Yanghao's claim about 3 or 4 men kidnapping Huang Na was the result of delusional thinking. Furthermore, psychological testing revealed that Zhuo's IQ was only 76. The defense described this as evidence of significantly limited intellectual ability. Members of Zhuo's family also spoke in support of this argument, insisting that he suffered from schizophrenia. They claimed that whenever he returned home, he would often laugh to himself for no apparent reason, shout unexpectedly, or smirk while alone. Lawyer Anand further argued that the constant smile on Zhuo's face was not normal behavior but rather a symptom of mental illness. The defense team even maintained that Zhuo was mentally unfit to stand trial. As a result, he did not personally appear in court during portions of the proceedings. Facing these arguments, Dr. Jain, a psychiatric expert called by the prosecution, presented a different assessment. He explained that the average IQ range for adults is generally between 90 and 110. Although Zhuo's IQ score of 76 was below average, it did not automatically qualify as an intellectual disability. In most cases, an IQ below 70 is required before such a diagnosis can be considered. More importantly, investigators found no documented history of mental illness. People who knew Zhuo personally also reported that his behavior before and after the crime appeared largely unchanged. The prosecution emphasized another critical point: the method of the crime suggested planning and awareness. When disposing of evidence, Zhuo did not simply throw Huang Na's belongings into a nearby trash bin. Instead, he allegedly chose locations with no surveillance cameras. The knots used to secure the packaging matched the type of knots he commonly used in daily work. He also waited until nightfall before transporting and disposing of the body. According to the prosecution, every step demonstrated caution, organization, and a clear understanding of what he was doing. Even during his first police interview, Zhuo remained calm while providing false information. During the second round of questioning, he managed to exploit police-issued documents to escape to Malaysia. The prosecution argued that these actions required planning, judgment, and awareness of consequences. For these reasons, prosecutors rejected the claim that Zhuo suffered from a mental disorder severe enough to remove criminal responsibility. As for motive, Zhuo's employer and several colleagues provided troubling testimony. They claimed that Zhuo had previously tied up young girls simply because he found them annoying. Witnesses also alleged that he had physically struck Huang Na in the past when he became angry. Therefore, prosecutors argued that it was entirely possible that Huang Na had upset him on the day of the incident. Combined with the fact that she was alone and vulnerable, this may have led to the fatal attack. The courtroom became the scene of intense and highly technical legal arguments. Finally, on August 27, 2005, after many days of hearings, the judge delivered the verdict. Zhuo Yanghao was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death by hanging. In January 2006, Zhuo appealed the conviction to a higher court. The three appellate judges did not completely agree with one another. One judge believed that a conviction for causing grievous bodily harm might have been more appropriate than murder and considered the death penalty excessively severe. However, the other two judges disagreed. The appeal was ultimately dismissed by a 2-to-1 majority. Even then, Zhuo's fate remained uncertain because the President of Singapore possessed the authority to grant clemency in capital cases. His family launched a public campaign urging citizens to sign a petition requesting mercy. Within just 4 months, approximately 35,000 signatures were collected. Why did so many people support Zhuo Yanghao? That question became one of the most controversial aspects of the case. The family submitted the clemency petition to President S. R. Nathan. Had the request been approved, Zhuo's death sentence could have been commuted to life imprisonment. After 8 months of review, however, the president rejected the application on November 3, 2006. Zhuo Lianghao was executed at Changi prison at the age of 24. A few days before his execution, he wore a new set of clothes brought by his family and posed for what would become the final photograph of his life. Meanwhile, Huang Na's funeral drew more than 1,000 voluntary mourners. Many of them had never met her personally. People brought candies, flowers, and snacks, the things she had loved most during her lifetime. Her coffin was covered with Hello Kitty plush toys, her favorite character. Hello Kitty stickers decorated the surrounding area as well. The funeral procession passed through the wholesale market, playgrounds, and school that had been important parts of Huang Na's short life. Throughout the ceremony, many members of the public donated money to help support her family. Although the criminal case had reached its conclusion, its social impact was far from over. As public attention continued, numerous stories from the past resurfaced. One involved the circumstances surrounding Huang Xiuying's divorce from her first husband, Huang Qinglong. According to reports, during a visit to Singapore in 1999, she discovered that her husband was having an affair. She later attempted to remain in Singapore for work, but because her visa status did not allow long-term residence, she eventually overstayed and was deported. Following her return to China, reports claimed that she deliberately damaged her fingerprints by pressing them against heated metal. She later paid a human smuggling network approximately 8,000 Singapore dollars to re-enter Singapore illegally together with Huang Na. These allegations eventually became public knowledge. Singaporean authorities confirmed immigration violations and issued serious warnings regarding the matter. By late November of that year, Huang Xiuying was forced to return to Fujian with her daughter's ashes. Attention also turned toward her second husband, Zheng Wenhai, who reportedly had previous legal troubles of his own. After Huang Na's death, Zheng traveled to Singapore. In media appearances, he was frequently seen holding a photograph of Huang Na and appearing deeply emotional. However, some newspapers questioned whether his displays of grief were genuine. Further controversy emerged when reports surfaced claiming that Huang Xiuying had used donated funds to build a luxurious 4-story house in her hometown, complete with a garage, ornamental landscaping, and a large garden. These reports generated widespread criticism. Some members of the public argued that Huang Xiuying had acted irresponsibly by repeatedly leaving her young daughter alone in a foreign country while traveling back to China. They believed that this lack of supervision had contributed to the tragedy. As more negative information about Huang Xiuying entered public discussion, some people began viewing the case through a different lens. This shift in public opinion was one of the main reasons why so many individuals signed petitions supporting Zhuo Lianghao. Numerous rumors and conspiracy theories also began circulating. Some speculated that Huang Xiuying herself was somehow responsible for her daughter's death and had acted for financial gain. Others suggested that she had secretly reached an agreement with Zhuo's family, with Zhuo accepting blame in exchange for money. However, most observers rejected these theories. They pointed out that Huang Xiuying had made enormous sacrifices for her daughter, working tirelessly to provide educational opportunities and a better future. Most importantly, at the time Huang Na disappeared and was killed, Huang Xiuying was not even in Singapore. In 2009, reports emerged that Huang Xiuying and her husband had gone on to have 2 more children following the tragedy of Huang Na's death. Deeply affected by what had happened, Huang Xiuying reportedly lived in constant fear that a similar tragedy could occur again. As a result, she devoted nearly all of her time and energy to caring for her children and ensuring their safety. Regarding the allegations that she had used donated funds to build a luxurious villa, Huang Xiuying firmly denied the claims, describing them as nothing more than false rumors. According to her, the total amount of donations received was approximately 126,000 Singapore dollars. She stated that most of the money was used to build Huang Na's grave and fulfill some of her daughter's final wishes. Part of the funds was donated to charitable organizations, while another portion was used to renovate the family home in her hometown. Huang Xiuying explained that she had only added an extra floor to the existing house so that she could see Huang Na's grave on the nearby hillside. She also emphasized that the house itself had originally belonged to her husband's family and was not purchased with donation money. As for the remaining funds, she said they were reserved for the care and upbringing of her younger children. The tragedy of Huang Na's death left a lasting impact not only on her family but also on society as a whole. Her case sparked widespread discussions about child safety, parental responsibility, and the importance of protecting vulnerable children. Raising a child, ensuring their safety, and supporting their education is an enormous responsibility that requires constant attention, patience, and care. The process is complex and demanding, and it leaves little room for negligence. Even a momentary lapse in supervision can sometimes lead to consequences that can never be undone. The story of Huang Na remains one of the most heartbreaking criminal cases in Singapore's history, a case remembered not only for the crime itself, but also for the questions it raised about trust, responsibility, justice, and the value of protecting children. See you all for the next cases. Please like and subscribe to my channel to support me.